Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel. Tonight, we're going to delve into the dark abyss of human experience, into the shadowy corners where fear resides and nightmares are born. We've got 20 true, terrifying stories lined up for you, each one more unsettling than the last. These aren't just campfire tales or urban legends. These are real accounts of the unexplainable, the things that go bump in the night. From haunted hotel rooms to mysterious disappearances, from ghostly apparitions to demonic entities. We'll be exploring the strange and unsettling side of reality, so dim the lights, grab a blanket, and prepare to be disturbed. Because tonight we're venturing into the heart of darkness. Are you ready to be scared? Let's begin. Scared. Our first story takes us to the Grand Starlight Hotel, a sprawling establishment with a rich history and a dark secret. It's a place where luxury and comfort collide with an unsettling feeling of dread. Guests would describe a sudden chill, a sense of being watched, especially around room 104. The staff knew the rumors, whispered tales passed down through generations of employees. Room 104, they said, was different. Guests would complain of strange noises, cold spots, and even apparitions appearing in the dead of night. Most dismissed it as an overactive imagination, but some guests left the hotel shaken to their core, convinced they'd encountered something truly sinister. Our next story takes us to the Cecil Hotel in downtown Los Angeles, a place with a dark and troubled past. It was here in 2013 that 21-year-old Elisa Lam vanished without a trace. Elisa, a Canadian student, had been traveling alone, documenting her adventures on her blog. Her posts were filled with excitement and a thirst for exploration, but her journey would take a sinister turn within the walls of the Cecil Hotel. Elisa checked into the hotel on January 26th. She seemed happy and carefree, chatting with staff and fellow guests. But then on January 31st, she vanished. Her belongings were still in her room, but Elisa was gone, leaving behind a chilling mystery that would captivate the world. Libraries are usually seen as places of quiet contemplation, filled with the comforting scent of old books and the gentle hum of turning pages. But some libraries harbor secrets best left undisturbed, haunted by stories whispered from the shelves. This is the unsettling tale of the Grey Lady, a spectral resident of a historic library, forever bound to the place she once cherished. Our story takes us to a grand old library, its walls lined with countless volumes, each holding within them a universe of words. The library stood as a testament to knowledge and history, but beneath its scholarly facade, a palpable chill lingered in the air. Visitors spoke of strange occurrences, of feeling a presence, a coldness that seemed to follow them through the stacks. The staff, accustomed to the library's quirks, would share hushed stories of the Grey Lady, a figure often glimpsed in the periphery, a fleeting shadow disappearing around a corner, always just out of sight. She was more than a rumor. She was a presence felt by everyone who dared to wander the library's silent halls. But who was the Grey Lady? And what tied her to the library? Imagine, if you will, the terror of the unknown invading your home, turning the familiar into a source of dread. This is the chilling story of the Enfield poltergeist, a case that shook the world with its sheer intensity and baffling phenomena. We journeyed to an unassuming house in Enfield, London, where a family's life would be turned upside down by a force they couldn't comprehend. The year was 1977, and the Hodgson family, consisting of a single mother and her 4 children, began to experience strange and unsettling events within their home. It started subtly with unexplained noises, objects moving inexplicably, but it soon escalated into a terrifying ordeal that would haunt them for years to come. The children reported feeling cold spots, hearing disembodied voices, and witnessing furniture moving violently across the room as if controlled by an unseen hand. The disturbances grew increasingly menacing, targeting the family, particularly the 2 young daughters, Peggy and Janet, who seemed to be at the epicenter of the paranormal activity. The Hodgson family's pleas for help reached the ears of the police, who arrived to witness firsthand the unexplainable events unfolding within the house. Objects flew across the room, furniture overturned, and voices whispered threats, leaving even the most skeptical officers visibly shaken. The Enfield poltergeist was making its presence known, and the world was about to take notice. Imagine a knock at your door late at night. The house is quiet, the world outside is cloaked in darkness, and the only sound is the faint rustling of leaves in the wind. You're comfortably settled in, perhaps reading a book or watching a late-night show, when suddenly the silence is broken by a soft, yet insistent knock. It's the kind of knock that immediately sends a shiver down your spine, a knock that feels out of place in the stillness of the night. You peer through the peephole, expecting to see a familiar face, but instead, you're met with a sight that sends chills down your spine. The peephole distorts the view slightly, but you can clearly make out the figure of a child, or perhaps two, standing on your doorstep. Their presence is unsettling, their silhouettes barely illuminated by the dim porch light. You squint, trying to make out more details, but the darkness seems to cling to them, obscuring their features. This is the unsettling premise of Encounters with the Black-Eyed Children, a phenomenon that has sparked fear and intrigue in equal measure. These children, with their unnaturally dark eyes and eerie demeanor, have been the subject of countless stories and urban legends. They appear out of nowhere, often in the dead of night, and their presence is always accompanied by an overwhelming sense of dread. These are not your typical trick-or-treaters. They are something far more unnerving, something that lingers in the back of your mind long after they've gone. Their appearance is always unexpected, and their behavior is anything but normal. They don't laugh or smile. Instead, they stand there, staring at you with those pitch-black eyes, their faces devoid of any emotion. It's as if they're waiting for something that you can't quite understand. The stories often begin the same way. A knock on the door, usually after dark, sometimes during a storm, adding to the already unsettling atmosphere. The rain might be pouring down, the wind howling and the thunder rumbling in the distance, creating a perfect backdrop for the eerie encounter. The knock is always soft, almost polite, but there's something about it that feels wrong, something that makes you hesitate before answering. You approach cautiously, a sense of unease creeping up your spine. Your heart starts to race, and you can feel the hairs on the back of your neck standing up. Every instinct is telling you to turn around, to walk away, but curiosity gets the better of you. You reach for the door handle, your hand trembling slightly, and you take a deep breath, trying to steady your nerves. As you peer through the peephole or open the door a crack, you're greeted by the sight of one or two children, often dressed in outdated clothing, their faces pale and expressionless. Their clothes look like they belong to another era, adding to the sense of unease. They stand there, motionless, their eyes fixed on you, and you can't help but feel a growing sense of dread. But it's their eyes that truly unsettle you. Those eyes, completely black, devoid of any white, like two pools of darkness staring back at you. It's as if they're looking right through you, seeing into your very soul. The sight of those eyes sends a chill down your spine, and you can feel your heart pounding in your chest. Their eyes are completely black, devoid of any white, like two pools of darkness staring back at you. It's a sight that's hard to forget, a sight that haunts you long after the encounter is over. Those eyes seem to hold a darkness that's beyond comprehension, a darkness that's both terrifying and mesmerizing. The children often speak in monotone voices, asking to be let inside, claiming they need to use the phone or are lost and need help. Their voices are flat, devoid of any emotion, and their requests seem rehearsed, almost robotic. They don't sound like children. They sound like something trying to imitate a child, something that doesn't quite understand how humans are supposed to behave. But their words ring hollow, their demeanor cold and unnerving, as if they're mimicking human behavior without truly understanding it. There's something off about them, something that makes you want to close the door and lock it to put as much distance between you and them as possible. Their presence feels wrong, unnatural, and you can't shake the feeling that you're in danger. Many who have encountered the black-eyed children describe an overwhelming sense of dread, a primal fear that washes over them, urging them to keep the children at bay. It's a fear that's hard to explain. a fear that goes beyond the rational. It's as if every fiber of your being is telling you that these children are not what they seem, that they are something to be feared. It's as if something deep within our subconscious recognizes these beings as inherently wrong, a threat to be avoided at all costs. This instinctive fear is a powerful force, one that's hard to ignore. It's a fear that's rooted in our very survival, a fear that tells us to stay away, to protect ourselves from whatever these children might be. Many people who have encountered the black-eyed children report slamming the door shut, their hearts pounding in their chests, their hands shaking as they lock the door. They back away, their minds racing, trying to make sense of what they just saw. The fear lingers, even after the children are gone, a fear that's hard to shake. They often find themselves checking the locks on their windows and doors, peering through the curtains to make sure the children are really gone. The encounter leaves them shaken, their sense of security shattered. They can't help but wonder if the children will come back, if they'll hear that knock on the door again. In the days that follow, many people find themselves researching the phenomenon, reading stories and accounts from others who have had similar encounters. They look for answers, trying to understand what they experienced. The stories they find are eerily similar, each one describing the same black eyes, the same sense of dread, the same unnatural behavior. They share their stories with friends and family, but often they're met with disbelief. People find it hard to believe that such encounters could be real, that these black-eyed children could exist. But for those who have experienced it, the fear is all too real. The memory of those black eyes haunting them long after the encounter is over. The fear often follows them into their dreams, turning into nightmares that leave them waking up in a cold sweat. They see those black eyes in their sleep, hear the monotone voices asking to be let in. The nightmares are vivid, and they wake up with their hearts racing, the fear still fresh in their minds. The encounter changes them, making them more cautious, more aware of their surroundings. They avoid dark places, always looking over their shoulder, always on edge. The fear becomes a part of them, a constant reminder of that night, of those black eyes staring back at them. They find comfort in the light, keeping their homes well lit, feeling safer in the brightness. The darkness holds too many memories, too many fears. The light becomes their refuge, a way to keep the fear at bay. Some find solace in community, in sharing their experiences with others who have had similar encounters. They attend support groups, finding comfort in knowing they're not alone. The shared stories help them cope, help them understand that they're not crazy, that what they experienced was real. Others find strength in their faith, turning to prayer and spiritual practices for protection. They find peace in their beliefs, trusting that they'll be kept safe from harm. Their faith becomes a source of strength, a way to combat the fear. Over time, the fear begins to fade and they start to move on with their lives. They find joy in everyday moments, in the simple pleasures of life. The memory of the encounter remains, but it no longer holds the same power over them. They learn to live without fear, to find happiness despite the darkness they once faced. In the end, the encounter becomes a part of their story, a chapter in their lives that they've learned to accept. They find meaning in the experience, understanding that it's made them stronger, more resilient. They've faced their fear and come out the other side, and that's something to be proud of. As they close the book on that chapter of their lives, they look out the window with a sense of peace. The fear is gone, replaced by a quiet strength. They know that they've faced something truly terrifying and come out stronger for it, and that's a story worth telling. Our next story takes us deep into the heart of Adams, Tennessee, where a sinister legend was born in the early 1800s. It centers around the Bell family, who lived on a farm plagued by something they couldn't explain. Imagine, if you will, hearing strange noises in your home, knocking on the walls, chains dragging across the floor. At first, it might seem like the wind or an animal, but for the Bells, it was just the beginning. This entity, whatever it was, seemed to target John Bell, the patriarch of the family. It started subtly, whispers, rustling sounds, but soon escalated. Imagine yourself in John's shoes, feeling a cold presence near you. hearing your name whispered in the dead of night. It's enough to make even the bravest soul uneasy. As time went on, the strange occurrences intensified. Objects moved mysteriously. Family members reported being pinched, scratched, and even slapped by an unseen force. The disturbances became so frequent and intense that they disrupted the family's daily life. Neighbors and visitors to the farm reported witnessing these bizarre events, lending credence to the Bells' claims. What began as unsettling pranks escalated into something far more sinister. The entity, now being called Kate by the family, began to speak in a clear voice. It taunted the family, revealing intimate details of their lives, and even threatened their lives. Our next story takes us to the icy wilderness of the Ural Mountains in Russia, to a desolate and unforgiving place known as Dyatlov Pass. It's January 1959, and a group of 9 experienced hikers, all students or graduates of the Ural Polytechnic Institute, set out on an adventure that would become one of history's most baffling unsolved mysteries. Led by Igor Dyatlov, a skilled skier and hiker, the group was well equipped and prepared for the challenging conditions. They were young, full of life, and eager to test their limits against the unforgiving wilderness. Their goal was to reach Mount Otorten, a peak known to the indigenous Mansi people as Don't Go There. Little did they know the mountain would live up to its ominous name. Their journey began with hope and camaraderie, documented meticulously in journals and photographs. They laughed, they sang, they captured the breathtaking beauty of the snow-covered landscape. They were acutely aware of the dangers posed by the harsh winter conditions, but remained in high spirits, their camaraderie a beacon of warmth against the biting cold. Day by day, they ventured deeper into the wilderness, their progress marked on a map later recovered by investigators. But as they approached their destination, the weather took a turn for the worse. Blizzards swept across the mountains, shrouding their path in a blinding whiteout. The cheerful entries in their journals grew shorter, more sporadic. Something was wrong. Our next story takes us to 112 Ocean Avenue in Amityville, New York, a seemingly idyllic suburban home that became synonymous with paranormal terror. In 1974, this unassuming house became the setting for a series of horrifying events that would terrify a family, shock a nation, and inspire one of the most iconic horror films of all time. But before the Lutz family moved in, before the name Amityville became synonymous with haunting, there was another family, the DeFeos, who lived and died within those walls. On November 13th, 1974, Ronald DeFeo Jr. shot and killed 6 members of his family inside their home at 112 Ocean Avenue. The murders sent shockwaves through the quiet community, leaving an indelible stain of tragedy on the house. Less than a year later, the Lutz family, George, Kathy, and their 3 children, purchased the house at a surprisingly low price. They were aware of its tragic history, but dismissed it as a bargain too good to pass up. They were a young family, full of hope and excitement, eager to start a new chapter in their lives. They had no idea of the nightmare that awaited them. From the moment they moved in, the Lutz family began to experience a series of unsettling events. Foul odors permeated the air despite their best efforts to air out the house. Green slime oozed from the walls, and swarms of flies appeared seemingly out of nowhere. It was as if the house itself was rejecting them. The Lutz family tried to rationalize these occurrences, attributing them to the house's age or perhaps even their own imaginations. But the events only grew more intense and more terrifying. Their dog would bark incessantly at empty spaces as if sensing an unseen presence. Shadows seemed to move on their own, and lights would flicker without explanation. The family began to feel a constant sense of dread, as if they were being watched by unseen eyes. George Lutz, the father, started waking up at exactly 3:15 a.m. every night, the same time the DeFeo murders had occurred. Kathy Lutz, the mother, experienced strange welts and burns on her skin, and the children were often found huddled together in fear, unable to explain what had frightened them. Desperate for answers, the Lutz family invited a priest to bless the house. But even the priest was not immune to the house's malevolent influence. He reported hearing a deep, menacing voice telling him to get out, and he left the house shaken and disturbed. After just 28 days, the Lutz family could no longer endure the torment. They packed up their belongings and fled the house in the middle of the night, leaving behind their dream of a new beginning. The house at 112 Ocean Avenue stood empty once more, a silent witness to the horrors that had unfolded within its walls. The story of the Lutz family's ordeal quickly spread, capturing the public's imagination. It was turned into a best-selling book, The Amityville Horror, and later adapted into a successful film. The house became a symbol of paranormal activity, drawing curious onlookers and paranormal investigators from around the world. Today, the house at 112 Ocean Avenue still stands, though its address has been changed to deter tourists. It remains a subject of fascination and debate, with some believing the Lutz family's story to be a hoax, while others are convinced of its authenticity. Whether you believe in the supernatural or not, the tale of the Amityville house is a chilling reminder of the mysteries that can lurk behind closed doors. It was November 12, 1966, when 4 young men claimed they saw something unbelievable near an abandoned World War II munitions plant outside Point Pleasant, West Virginia. Driving late at night, they noticed 2 red lights in the shadows. As they got closer, whatever was out there emerged, revealing something that defied explanation. It was shaped like a man, but much larger, maybe 6 or 7 feet tall. And from its back, unfurling in the darkness, were massive wings. The men were terrified. This wasn't some owl or large bird. This was something else entirely. They sped away, the creature's glowing red eyes fixed on them, but it followed, keeping pace with their car despite its massive size. They raced towards town, desperate to escape whatever had been lurking in the shadows. The creature seemed to vanish as they entered Point Pleasant, leaving the men shaken and breathless. This was just the beginning. Over the next year, there would be dozens of reported sightings of this creature, dubbed the Mothman. Some said it landed on their cars, its claws scratching the metal. Others claimed to see it perched on rooftops, its red eyes glowing in the darkness. The people of Point Pleasant were living in a nightmare, stalked by something they couldn't explain. Was it a real creature, some unknown species of bird? Was it an escaped experiment, a product of the nearby abandoned munitions plant? Or was it something more sinister, a harbinger of something far worse to come? Nestled in the heart of San Jose, California, stands a sprawling Victorian mansion unlike any other. This isn't just any mansion, it's a place steeped in mystery and legend. A house that has captured the imaginations of countless visitors and historians alike. Its very presence is a testament to the eccentricities and deep sorrows of its creator. With its twisting hallways, staircases leading to nowhere, and doors that open to blank walls, the Winchester Mystery House is an architectural enigma, a labyrinthine monument to grief and obsession. Each corner turned reveals another oddity, another puzzle piece in the grand, perplexing design. The house seems to defy logic and reason, almost as if it were a living entity, constantly shifting and changing. It's a place where the line between reality and the supernatural blurs, a testament to the power of belief and the enduring weight of guilt. Visitors often report feeling an eerie presence, as if the very walls whisper the secrets of the past. Shadows seem to move on their own, and the air is thick with the weight of untold stories and restless spirits. This architectural oddity was the lifelong project of Sarah Winchester, heiress to the Winchester repeating arms fortune. Sarah was a woman of great wealth and even greater sorrow, a figure shrouded in mystery and speculation. Her life was marked by tragedy, and her response to that tragedy was nothing short of extraordinary. In 1881, Sarah's husband, William Winchester, died of tuberculosis, leaving her a wealthy widow. The loss of her husband was a devastating blow, but it was only the beginning of her troubles. The weight of her inheritance was heavy, not just in monetary terms, but in the moral and emotional burden it carried. But Sarah's grief was compounded by a deep sense of guilt. She was haunted by the lives lost to the very source of her wealth. The Winchester rifle, a revolutionary firearm, had brought immense fortune to her family, but at a terrible cost. The blood of countless individuals stained her legacy, and this realization tormented her. You see, the Winchester fortune was built on blood, on the profits of the Winchester rifle, a weapon that had taken countless lives. Each rifle sold was another life potentially lost, another soul added to the growing list of the dead. This grim reality weighed heavily on Sarah's conscience, driving her to seek answers and redemption. Seeking solace and guidance, Sarah consulted a medium who told her that the Winchester family was cursed by the spirits of those killed by Winchester rifles. The medium's words struck a chord deep within Sarah, confirming her worst fears and setting her on a path of relentless construction and spiritual appeasement. The medium claimed that the only way for Sarah to appease the spirits and escape their wrath was to continuously build a house for them, a sprawling mansion that would confuse and disorient the vengeful spirits. This idea, as bizarre as it sounded, became Sarah's mission. She believed that as long as construction continued, she would be safe from the spirits' vengeance. Driven by grief and fear, Sarah poured her vast fortune into the construction of the Winchester house. She became a familiar sight on the construction site, overseeing every detail, ensuring that the work never stopped. Her instructions were often cryptic, guided by her nightly seances and the messages she believed she received from the spirits. For the next 38 years, until her death in 1922, construction on the mansion never ceased. Day and night, the sound of hammers and saws filled the air, a constant reminder of Sarah's unending quest for peace. The house grew and evolved, becoming a sprawling, chaotic masterpiece of Victorian architecture. Carpenters worked around the clock, adding rooms, towers, and architectural flourishes based on Sarah's nightly seances and her desperate attempts to appease the spirits. The result was a house like no other, a physical manifestation of one woman's grief, guilt, and relentless pursuit of redemption. Today, the Winchester Mystery House stands as a haunting reminder of the lengths to which one can go when driven by sorrow and fear. Imagine a painting so infused with sadness, so steeped in tragedy, that it becomes a conduit for misfortune, a harbinger of fiery destruction. This is not just any painting, but one that has left an indelible mark on the collective psyche of those who have encountered it. Its story is one of mystery, fear, and inexplicable events that have baffled and terrified people for decades. This is the story of the Crying Boy painting, a mass-produced print that hung on countless walls in post-war Britain, only to become associated with a series of bizarre and unsettling events. The painting, which seemed innocuous at first glance, soon became the center of a whirlwind of rumors and legends. People began to notice a strange pattern, a series of coincidences that were too eerie to ignore. It's a tale that blurs the line between coincidence and curse, asking if an image can truly hold the power to influence our world. Can a simple painting, a mere collection of colors and brushstrokes, really bring about such profound and disturbing consequences? The Crying Boy painting challenges our understanding of reality, making us question the boundaries between the physical and the supernatural. The painting itself depicts a young boy, his face streaked with tears, his eyes wide with sadness. The artist captured a moment of pure, unfiltered emotion, a snapshot of sorrow that resonates deeply with anyone who gazes upon it. The boy's expression is haunting, his tears almost tangible, as if they could spill out of the frame and into the real world. It's a heartbreaking image, one that evokes feelings of empathy and concern. The boy's sorrow is palpable, his pain almost contagious. Viewers can't help but feel a pang of sadness themselves, a connection to the boy's plight that transcends the boundaries of the canvas. This emotional resonance is perhaps one of the reasons why the painting became so popular. The painting became incredibly popular in the 1950s, with countless prints sold across the UK. It was a time of rebuilding and recovery, and the Crying Boy painting seemed to strike a chord with the public. Its melancholic beauty provided a stark contrast to the optimism of the era, a reminder of the lingering shadows of the past. Families hung it in their homes, unaware of the darkness that some believed lurked beneath its surface. To them, it was just a beautiful piece of art, a poignant depiction of childhood sorrow. Little did they know that this seemingly innocent painting would soon be linked to a series of inexplicable and terrifying events. The stories began slowly at first, whispers of misfortune befalling those who owned the print. Neighbors would exchange hushed tales of strange occurrences, of fires breaking out without warning, of homes reduced to ashes while the Crying Boy painting remained unscathed. These stories spread like wildfire, fueling a growing sense of unease and fear. A fire in a shop, the owner left with nothing but a charred frame containing the Crying Boy, seemingly untouched by the flames. This was one of the first documented cases that brought the painting's eerie reputation to the forefront. The shop owner, bewildered and shaken, couldn't understand how the painting had survived when everything else was destroyed. A family escaping a house fire, their home reduced to rubble, yet the painting remained hanging on a wall amidst the ashes. This incident added fuel to the fire, so to speak, as more and more people began to report similar experiences. The Crying Boy painting seemed to be at the center of a growing number of unexplained fires, each one more baffling than the last. As more and more of these stories surfaced, a pattern began to emerge. Homes burning, families losing everything, yet the Crying Boy painting always seemed to survive. It was as if the painting was immune to the destructive power of the flames, a silent witness to the devastation around it. This pattern was too consistent to be dismissed as mere coincidence. The media caught wind of the phenomenon, and soon the curse of the Crying Boy became a national sensation. Newspapers ran sensational headlines. Television programs featured segments on the mysterious painting, and journalists scrambled to uncover the truth behind the curse. The public was captivated, their imaginations ignited by the chilling tales of the Crying Boy. People were terrified, convinced that the painting was cursed, a conduit for fiery destruction. Families who owned the painting began to fear for their safety, some even going so far as to destroy their prints in an attempt to break the curse. The Crying Boy painting had become more than just a piece of art. It was now a symbol of fear and superstition, a reminder of the thin line between the ordinary and the extraordinary. Art historians and skeptics weighed in, offering various theories to explain the phenomenon. Some suggested that the painting's composition, with its use of fire-retardant materials, might explain its survival in fires. Others speculated that the stories were simply urban legends, fueled by a combination of coincidence and mass hysteria. Despite these rational explanations, the legend of the Crying Boy persisted, its grip on the public imagination unshaken. The origins of the painting itself are shrouded in mystery. The artist Giovanni Bragolin, also known as Bruno Amadio, was an Italian painter who created a series of portraits of crying children. These paintings, known as Gypsy Boys, were intended to evoke strong emotional responses. Bragolin's work gained widespread popularity, but it was the Crying Boy that would become his most infamous creation. Some believe that the boy in the painting was an orphan, a child who had experienced great tragedy and loss. This theory adds another layer of poignancy to the painting, suggesting that the boy's sorrow was not just an artistic expression, but a reflection of real-life suffering. The idea that the painting could be a window into the boy's soul, capturing his pain for eternity, only adds to its mystique. Paranormal investigators and ghost hunters have also taken an interest in the Crying Boy painting. Some claim that the painting is haunted, that the boy's spirit is trapped within the canvas, seeking release. These theories, while lacking scientific evidence, have only added to the painting's eerie reputation. The idea that a painting could be a vessel for a restless spirit is both fascinating and terrifying. In response to the growing fear, many families took drastic measures to rid themselves of the painting. Some burned their prints, hoping to break the curse once and for all. Others donated their paintings to charity shops, only for the cycle of misfortune to continue with the new owners. The Crying Boy painting seemed to carry its curse wherever it went, leaving a trail of destruction in its wake. Despite the fear and superstition, the Crying Boy painting continues to be a subject of fascination. Some collectors seek it out, drawn by its dark history and the mystery that surrounds it. For these individuals, the painting is not just a piece of art, but a piece of history, a tangible connection to a legend that has captivated the public for decades. Art galleries and exhibitions have also featured the Crying Boy painting, showcasing it as a piece of cultural history. These displays often include information about the painting's infamous reputation, allowing visitors to learn about the legend and form their own opinions. The painting's presence in these settings serves as a reminder of the power of art to evoke strong emotions and provoke thought. Public reactions to the Crying Boy painting are varied. Some view it as a beautiful and poignant piece of art, while others see it as a harbinger of misfortune. The painting's ability to elicit such strong and diverse responses is a testament to its impact. Whether one believes in the curse or not, there is no denying that the Crying Boy painting has left an indelible mark on those who have encountered it. In the end, the Crying Boy painting remains an enigma, a portrait of sorrow that continues to captivate and haunt. Its story is a reminder of the power of art to transcend the boundaries of the canvas, to touch our lives in ways that are both profound and mysterious. As we gaze upon the boy's tear-streaked face, we are reminded of the fragility of life, the weight of sorrow, and the enduring mystery of the human experience. Picture this: the vast expanse of the Atlantic Ocean, December 1872. The sea stretches endlessly, a serene and almost hypnotic expanse of blue, with the horizon blending seamlessly into the sky. The air is crisp, and the gentle waves lap against the hulls of ships that dare to traverse these waters. The DEI Grazia, a British merchant ship, is sailing under clear skies when the crew spots something unusual in the distance. The ship, a sturdy vessel, is on a routine voyage, its crew seasoned and vigilant. They are accustomed to the vastness of the ocean, but today something catches their eye. It's another vessel, seemingly adrift, its sails partially set, but with no signs of life on board. The sight is eerie, the ship swaying gently with the rhythm of the sea, yet devoid of any human presence. The crew of the DEI Grazia feels a chill run down their spines as they observe the lifeless ship. The captain of the DEI Grazia, intrigued and concerned, orders his men to approach the mysterious ship. He peers through his telescope, trying to discern any movement or signs of life, but the ship remains silent and still, like a ghostly apparition on the water. As they draw closer, the crew can clearly read the name emblazoned on the stern, Mary Celeste. The name is familiar, and a sense of foreboding settles over the men. They know this ship, and they know it should not be here, adrift and abandoned. This ship wasn't just any vessel, it was a well-known American merchant brigantine. The Mary Celeste had a reputation, and its sudden appearance in such a state was baffling. The crew of the DEI Grazia exchanges uneasy glances, their minds racing with questions. The captain of the DEI Grazia knew the Mary Celeste's captain, Benjamin Briggs, a seasoned sailor with a reputation for competence. Something was terribly wrong. Captain Briggs was not the kind of man to abandon his ship without a fight, and the presence of his family on board made the situation even more perplexing. A boarding party is quickly assembled, and they cautiously step onto the deck of the Mary Celeste, a sense of unease settling over them. The silence is deafening, broken only by the creaking of the ship and the gentle lapping of the waves against its hull. The men move slowly, their eyes scanning every corner for clues. The ship is eerily silent. The deck, usually bustling with activity, is now a ghostly expanse of wood and rope. The men feel as though they are intruding on a place frozen in time, a snapshot of a moment when life suddenly ceased. The crew finds no sign of Captain Briggs, his wife and young daughter, who were also on board, or any of the 7 other crew members. The cabins are empty, the bunks neatly made, as if the occupants had simply stepped out for a moment and never returned. The ship's logbook is their only clue, its last entry made 10 days prior. The pages are worn, the ink slightly faded, but the words are clear. The entries detail the ship's journey, the weather conditions, and the daily routines of the crew. The entry details nothing unusual, just the ship's position. There are no signs of distress, no hints of impending danger. The logbook ends abruptly, leaving the men with more questions than answers. The mystery deepens as the boarding party continues its investigation. They search every nook and cranny, hoping to find some clue that will explain the disappearance of the crew. But the ship is in perfect order, as if it had been meticulously maintained even in the absence of its crew. Everything is in its place: Supplies are plentiful and there's no sign of a struggle or foul play. The food stores are well stocked, the water barrels full, and the cargo hold is organized and intact. It is as if the crew had simply vanished into thin air. The cargo is intact and even the lifeboat remains securely fastened to the ship. This detail is particularly puzzling, as it suggests that the crew did not leave in a hurry. If they had abandoned ship, they would have taken the lifeboat with them. It's as if the crew simply vanished into thin air, leaving behind a perfectly seaworthy vessel. The Mary Celeste floats silently on the calm waters, a ghost ship with no answers, only questions. The men of the DEI Gratia are left to ponder the fate of the missing crew, their minds filled with the haunting mystery of the Mary Celeste. Imagine yourself lying in bed, the room shrouded in darkness, the silence broken only by your own breathing. Suddenly you sense a presence, a feeling of being watched. You open your eyes, your heart pounding, and there, at the edge of your vision, you see it, a dark, shadowy figure, its form indistinct, its intentions unknown. This, my friends, is the terrifying reality for those who claim to have encountered what are known as shadow people. These entities, often described as dark humanoid shapes with no discernible features, have haunted the fringes of human experience for centuries. Some believe them to be interdimensional beings, accidentally crossing over into our realm. Others see them as malevolent spirits, harbingers of doom, or even demonic entities. Reports of shadow people vary widely. Some describe fleeting glimpses caught in the periphery, while others claim to have been directly confronted by these enigmatic figures. Some feel a sense of dread and fear in their presence, while others report feeling strangely calm, almost as if being observed by something ancient and unknowable. Whatever their true nature, one thing is certain: encounters with shadow people are deeply unsettling, leaving those who experience them with a profound sense of unease and a lingering question: what lurks in the shadows at the edge of our perception? Our story takes us to Klingenberg, Maine, Germany in the late 1960s. Anneliese Michel, a devoutly Catholic teenager, begins to exhibit strange and disturbing behavior. What starts as mild depression and faint hallucinations quickly escalates into something far more sinister and terrifying. Anneliese experiences violent convulsions, speaks in tongues, drinks her own urine, and demonstrates an aversion to religious icons, even attacking her own family members. Her terrified parents, convinced their daughter is possessed by demonic forces, seek help from the Catholic Church. What follows is one of the most documented and controversial cases of demonic possession and exorcism in modern history. As Anneliese's condition worsens, her behavior becomes increasingly erratic and disturbing. She claims to hear voices, demonic entities that taunt her and threaten her soul. The once vibrant and devout young woman transforms into a shell of her former self, consumed by an unseen evil. Concerned for their daughter's well-being and convinced that medical intervention is failing, Anneliese's parents plead with the church for an exorcism. After much debate and hesitation, the bishop finally grants permission, setting in motion a series of events that will forever be etched in the annals of paranormal history. Deep in the heart of the North American wilderness, shrouded in ancient forests and frosted lakes, lurks a legend so chilling, so disturbing, it sent shivers down the spines of countless generations. This, my friends, is the legend of the Wendigo, a creature born not of flesh and bone, but of desperation, greed, and the darkest corners of the human soul. Imagine for a moment the unforgiving chill of a winter so harsh it threatens to consume you entirely. The Algonquin people, native to these lands, knew this feeling all too well. They knew the hunger, the raw, gnawing desperation that could drive a person to unthinkable acts, and they knew that lurking just beyond the reach of the firelight, something watched, something waited. The Wendigo, they called it, a creature of immense size and power, its emaciated frame a grotesque mockery of a human form. Its skin, stretched taut over bones, was said to be the color of death, its eyes burning with an unnatural hunger. But the most terrifying aspect of the Wendigo, it was once human. The legend goes that when a person consumed the flesh of another, driven by the madness of starvation or the insatiable depths of their own greed, they risked transforming into the Wendigo. It was a fate worse than death, a curse that twisted the victim into a monstrous reflection of their own depravity. Section 2. The hunger that never ends. (1970), Hartford, Connecticut. A young nursing student named Donna receives a seemingly innocent gift from her mother, a vintage Raggedy Ann doll. Little did she know, this seemingly innocuous doll would become a vessel for something sinister, something that would terrorize her and her roommate for months to come. This wasn't just any doll, this was Annabelle. At first glance, Annabelle was just like any other Raggedy Ann doll. Her yarn hair, her button eyes, her stitched-on smile, they seemed to radiate a certain childlike innocence. But Donna and her roommate, Angie, would soon learn that looks can be deceiving. It began subtly. They would find Annabelle in different positions, move from the spot they'd left her. Sometimes they'd find her perched on the couch, her legs crossed, a creepy, knowing grin plastered on her fabric face. Other times they'd find her sprawled on the floor as if she'd been tossed aside carelessly. But the strange occurrences didn't end there. Donna began finding handwritten notes, scrawled in a childish handwriting, appearing around their apartment. "Help us," the notes pleaded, their tone desperate and chilling. The problem was Donna lived in a secure apartment building and neither she nor Angie recognized the handwriting. Section 2. The entity reveals itself. December 29th, 1972. Eastern Airlines Flight 401, a Lockheed L-1011 TriStar, was on approach to Miami International Airport, carrying 163 passengers and 13 crew members. It was a routine flight, a routine night. But in a matter of minutes, this routine flight would turn into one of aviation history's most enduring mysteries. As Flight 401 descended through the night sky, the crew became preoccupied with a seemingly minor issue, a landing gear indicator light that refused to illuminate. Unbeknownst to them, their attention to this technical glitch would have catastrophic consequences. While the pilots and flight engineer were fixated on the landing gear, the autopilot had inadvertently disengaged, causing the aircraft to slowly descend towards the dark, unforgiving Florida Everglades. Lost in their troubleshooting, the crew failed to notice their gradual descent until it was too late. With a sickening crunch, Flight 401 slammed into the swamp, tearing the aircraft apart and scattering debris over a wide area. The impact was catastrophic, claiming the lives of 101 souls. But the horror of that night was far from over. For in the aftermath of the crash, something truly unsettling began to occur. Section 2. Whispers from the Wreckage. Picture this. It's 1692. The bone-chilling winds of winter howl through the village of Salem, Massachusetts, a devoutly religious community where fear and superstition run rampant. It was in this climate of paranoia that one of the darkest chapters in American history began to unfold. It all started with a group of young girls who began to exhibit strange and disturbing behavior. They suffered from fits, seizures, and outbursts of screaming, their bodies contorted in unnatural positions as if some unseen force had taken hold of them. Doctors were baffled, unable to find any medical explanation for the girls' affliction. In the absence of a rational explanation, whispers of witchcraft began to circulate through the village. Fingers were pointed at marginalized members of the community: Tituba, a slave woman; Sarah Good, a beggar; and Sarah Osborne, an elderly woman. These women, already vulnerable and ostracized, were easy targets for accusations fueled by fear and suspicion. And so, the Salem witch trials began, a period of mass hysteria that would see neighbors turn against neighbors, friends betray friends, and innocent lives extinguished under the weight of unfounded accusations. Deep in the heart of Mexico, along the banks of winding rivers where the moonlight casts eerie shadows and the night air is thick with an unsettling stillness, lies a tale that has been passed down through generations. This is a story that has seeped into the very soil and water of the land, a story that is as much a part of the landscape as the rivers and lakes themselves. And the shores of desolate lakes, whispers echo through the night, carrying with them a name that chills the blood and sends shivers down the spine: La Llorona. These whispers are not just the rustling of leaves or the calls of nocturnal creatures. They are the echoes of a sorrow so profound that it transcends time and space. They are the cries of a mother who has lost everything, a mother whose grief has turned her into a spectre, forever haunting the places where her tragedy unfolded. The Weeping Woman, a story, a chilling tapestry woven from love, betrayal, and unimaginable sorrow, has haunted generations, a cautionary tale whispered from parent to child under the cloak of darkness. It is a story that serves as a warning, a reminder of the fragility of happiness and the devastating consequences of unchecked emotions. Parents tell their children this tale not just to scare them, but to teach them about the complexities of love and the dangers of letting despair take hold. La Llorona, they say, was once a woman named Maria, a woman of breathtaking beauty, blessed with a love story that seemed destined for a lifetime of happiness. Maria was the kind of woman who turned heads wherever she went, her beauty matched only by her grace and kindness. She lived in a small village where everyone knew her and admired her for her gentle nature and her unwavering devotion to her family. She had it all, a handsome and charming husband and two beautiful children, the very lights of her life. Her husband was a man of great charm and charisma, and together they made a picture-perfect family. Their home was filled with laughter and joy, the sounds of children playing and the warmth of a loving relationship. Maria's life seemed like a dream come true, a fairy tale that everyone envied. Maria doted on her children, her world revolving around their laughter and their innocent smiles. She spent her days playing with them, teaching them, and showering them with love. Her children were her pride and joy, and she couldn't imagine a life without them. They were her reason for living, the source of her greatest happiness. But as with so many tales of love and loss, fate had a cruel twist in store for Maria. The skies that were once clear and bright began to darken, and ominous clouds gathered on the horizon. The happiness that had once filled her life began to slip away, replaced by a growing sense of unease and foreboding. Maria could feel the change coming, but she was powerless to stop it. Her husband, his heart ensnared by the allure of another, abandoned her, leaving Maria alone with her shattered dreams and the heavy burden of their two young children. The man who had once promised her a lifetime of love and happiness had turned his back on her, choosing another woman over the family they had built together. Maria was left to pick up the pieces of her broken heart, struggling to understand how everything had gone so wrong. Consumed by grief and driven to the brink of madness, Maria wandered aimlessly through the village, her heart a heavy stone in her chest. She could no longer find joy in the things that had once brought her happiness. The laughter of her children, the beauty of the world around her, all seemed to mock her pain. She was a shadow of her former self, lost in a sea of despair. The pain of his betrayal cut deep, a wound that refused to heal. And as the days turned into sleepless nights, a terrifying thought began to take root in her tormented mind. She couldn't escape the agony of her loss, and the more she thought about it, the more she became convinced that there was only one way to end her suffering. Her mind, once filled with love and joy, was now a dark and twisted place, consumed by thoughts of revenge and despair. If she couldn't have her husband, then no one could. And in a moment of unimaginable despair, she took her children down to the river, the rushing water a reflection of her own turbulent emotions. The river, once a place of beauty and tranquility, now seemed like a dark and foreboding force, mirroring the chaos in her heart. As she stood by the water's edge, the weight of her grief and anger became too much to bear, and she made a decision that would change her life forever. With tears streaming down her face, Maria held her children close, whispering words of love and sorrow. She told them how much she loved them, how sorry she was for what she was about to do. Her heart broke as she looked into their innocent eyes, knowing that she was about to commit an unforgivable act. But in her twisted mind, she believed that this was the only way to end their suffering and her own. In a moment of madness, she pushed her children into the rushing river, watching in horror as they struggled against the current. Their cries for help echoed in her ears, but she was paralyzed by her own grief and despair. She wanted to save them, but it was too late. The river claimed them, and Maria was left alone, her heart shattered beyond repair. Realizing the enormity of what she had done, Maria let out a heart-wrenching scream, a cry that echoed through the night and sent shivers down the spines of those who heard it. She fell to her knees by the riverbank, her body racked with sobs. The weight of her actions crushed her, and she knew that she could never undo the terrible mistake she had made. From that moment on, Maria was no longer the woman she had once been. She became a ghostly figure, wandering the village and the riverbanks, searching for her lost children. Her cries of anguish could be heard in the dead of night, a haunting reminder of the tragedy that had unfolded. The villagers began to fear her, believing that her spirit was cursed and that she brought misfortune to those who crossed her path. The story of La Llorona spread like wildfire, becoming a legend that parents used to warn their children. They told them to stay away from the river at night, to be careful of the weeping woman who roamed the land. The tale of La Llorona became a part of the village's folklore, a story that was passed down from generation to generation, each retelling adding to the mystery and fear surrounding her. To this day, the legend of La Llorona lives on. People claim to hear her cries in the dead of night, to see her ghostly figure by the river, searching for her lost children. Her story serves as a chilling reminder of the power of grief and the devastating consequences of letting despair take hold. It is a tale that continues to haunt the hearts and minds of those who hear it, a story that will never be forgotten. So, the next time you find yourself by a moonlit river, and you hear the eerie whispers of the night, remember the story of La Llorona. Remember the mother who lost everything, and let her tale be a reminder of the fragility of happiness and the importance of holding on to hope, even in the darkest of times. For in the end, it is hope that keeps us going, that gives us the strength to face our deepest fears and overcome the greatest of tragedies. In the heart of the Emerald Isle, where ancient legends intertwine with everyday life, there exists a belief passed down through generations, a chilling tale of a spectral being whose mournful cries herald the approach of death. This is the Banshee, a creature of sorrow and warning, forever bound to the mortal realm by a tie to the other world. Often depicted as a woman, sometimes young, sometimes ancient, the Banshee is said to possess an ethereal beauty that belies her grim purpose. Her long, flowing hair, often silver or white as snow, cascades down her back like a waterfall of moonlight. And her eyes, pools of ancient wisdom and profound sadness, seem to pierce the veil of reality, reflecting the sorrow of the other world. But it is her voice, her mournful wail, that chills the very marrow, that truly sets the Banshee apart from all other creatures of Irish folklore. It is a sound that sends shivers down the spine, a heart-wrenching lament that speaks of impending doom and the inevitable passage from this life to the next. Some say the Banshee's cry is a warning, a final act of kindness to allow those who are about to depart this mortal coil to make peace with their loved ones and prepare for the journey to the other world. Others believe it is a harbinger of death itself, a chilling reminder that our time on this earth is finite, and that death, like the Banshee herself, is always watching, always waiting. And there you have 20 scary stories that will haunt your dreams and make you think twice before turning off the lights tonight. If you enjoyed these stories, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the bell icon for more spine-chilling content.